Right.
Hi, Alex. Well, we're going to be watching that situation very carefully in Geneva. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State there, trying to hash out this peace deal. We may get an announcement, hopefully, in the next hour or so. So that is going to be our main topic. And also the BBC, Alex, I know you've just done this story as well, front page of The Guardian. They're actually sidelining the only potentially right-leaning member of that committee when they're accused of left-wing bias. So that's a fascinating solution. Classic BBC, quite arrogant. Anyway, thank you, Alex. I will take it from here. This is The Late Show. The Late Show Live tonight.
I think this is a very, very meaningful, I would say, probably best meeting and day we've had so far in this entire process.
A row broke out today between Ukraine and Donald Trump. The American president says that Zelensky is ungrateful for the help that he's received, but he's begged Donald Trump for forgiveness. In the middle of all this is Marco Rubio, who's hashing it out as we speak in Geneva. We're going to bring you the latest on those negotiations. Also, The Guardian is tonight reporting it is to overhaul its standards panel. This is the BBC. Is this a way to push out the influential Robbie Gibb? Also,
So you're happy prescribing 9-year-old children with
the alternative,
with puberty blockers, cross hormones?
Puberty blockers are the best time for puberty blockers is when puberty starts.
Well, that interview has been watched hundreds of thousands of times online. It really touched a nerve, and it seems that the GP in the picture there is some sort of government advisor, as a new trial has been announced which will allow children as young as 10 to be injected with puberty blockers. I'm going to talk to somebody who received such medication and regrets the treatment. Plus,
it's never been done, and I'm a big fan of King Charles. I've known him for quite a while. A great guy, great person. He looks really well to me. He looks great. So we look forward to coming over. I hate to say it, but nobody does it like you people.
well, it sounds like we did it so well. President Trump is returning the favour, and King Charles is going to visit him. I'm going to be joined by his former butler. That's the King's, not Trump's. We're also going to be cracking open tomorrow's front pages, hour before the ink's dry, and breaking the news before it becomes news. We are, of course, live in Washington, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about this evening and that matter to Britain too, as you lean into your morning, including this.
Stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's creed, background, or politics.
Of course, that was Nicki Minaj talking a couple of days ago over the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria, and she's still working with the president over this. The story has moved on this evening. Stay tuned to find out how. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Your night's just getting started. Breaking news tonight. This is going to be all over the press tomorrow, today, in your time. The Guardian is reporting that the BBC is planning to overhaul the way that it investigates editorial concerns in a move that will actually dilute the influence of the controversial figure Robbie Gibb. He's the one who's accused of trying to sway its political impartiality, perhaps a little more to the right. Let's talk now to former head of religion at the BBC, Akhil Ahmed, who joins us now. Good evening, Akhil. Thank you yet again for joining me on this. Now, the BBC, obviously, let's put this in context, was accused of left-leaning bias, and that was partly behind its editing of the Trump documentary, which has got them into so much trouble. So you might think they would go away and say, all right, well, in order to bring a little bias, let's bring some more people into the fold who might see things through a more, what you might call, conservative right-wing bias. They've actually done the opposite and are sidelining Robbie Gibb, who was a former spokesperson for Theresa May. Is that how you read this story which has just broken, Akhil?
No, I can understand why it can be read like that, but no, I think the editorial guidelines that they have, or the editorial work, it's clearly there's been a breakdown and it's not working, and I think that needs to be reviewed. What happens with that afterwards, I'm not particularly sure, and I don't think they know, because there isn't a fait accompli as such. It's actually work in progress. Now, Robbie Gibb is a member of the BBC board, and as somebody like I'm on the board of a number of organisations as well. That doesn't mean that I'm involved in absolutely every single thing. And when it comes to the editorial independence of the BBC, I think that's what they need to look at. But I'm actually with you in one respect on this, which is one of the things that I think that is a problem with a lot of broadcasters, but particularly you can put the BBC into that mix completely, because it's the largest one in the country, and that is, you know, we need to have a variety of voices, whatever those particular voices are. We need people coming from lots of different kind of backgrounds, lots of different socio-economic backgrounds, as well as kind of like political backgrounds, regional backgrounds, you name it. And all of those things the BBC has tried to do, but I think they need to get it better when they're having things like the editorial guidelines kind of committees, as opposed to the board itself. So there's a confusion here between his role on the board isn't what we're talking about here. We're talking about an editorial kind of board, and that should be free of any kind of political persuasion, but it needs to have diverse. When I say diverse, I mean people who think differently, have different approaches, and for that, in that respect, that's where I agree with you.
We've got this hearing today, in your time in the UK. They're going to appear before MPs as the Culture, Media and Sport Committee examine the memo, and we're going to hear from Samir Shah, the BBC chair, and also Robbie Gibb himself is going to be talking at that. How important is that going to be today? Because actually this story has gone rather quiet. It was this huge storm between the White House and the BBC, threat of litigation left, right and centre, and now it's sort of gone a bit quiet, Akmal. Do you think it's going to ramp up a little bit after today's hearing?
Yeah, I think that hearing's quite a big deal, Bev, and I think that actually it's not going away. This is something which does need to be resolved, because I think the Trump thing may have got away for today, but it could come back at any particular time. And Samir knows that. They're going to have to find a new Director General. There's talking about having a kind of like a Deputy Director General again, which we used to have in the past at the BBC. There are all sorts of issues about other people resigned. Somebody resigned a few days ago, one of the board members from the BBC board. So, no, it's not going to go away. This is a story that's going to go on for quite some time, and actually as we go into licence fee charter renewal as well, it's not going to go away. Lisa Nandy, as you know, she clearly has something that she clearly has an opinion on the BBC, and the DCMS themselves do. And I think that this is just not the end. It's not the start of something, but it's not the end. It's going to carry on. And whether it's Tim Davies, Samir Shah, whoever it is going forward, they're not going to well, I say get away is the wrong word, but this is not going to just go away. This is a conversation that I think is going to be affected by, because whoever the new Director General is, and board structures, and all the kind of structuring that's going to have to go on after what we've seen over the last few months, it's not going to go away.
OK. All right. Thank you so much, Akhil Ahmed, there, former head of religion at the BBC. And of course, you can watch the developments from that story all tomorrow, today on GB News. But let's get into another huge story tonight. It's breaking in the last few moments. A joint American and Ukrainian statement has been issued by the White House, saying that the peace talks during the emergency summit in Geneva have been productive, but the framework has been updated and refined. Well, this comes after a furious row between America and Ukraine erupted this weekend. President Trump earlier said Ukraine leadership has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts, which is actually echoing a little bit of the mood that we saw on that tense exchange in the Oval Office that we're looking at there. That response today was in response to his administration's 28-point plan that they put forward. It was accused of being too favourable to the Russians. Well, tonight a counter-proposal has been lodged, which would allow Russia back into the G8, a group of international political leaders, including the UK and the US, which had previously booted out Putin in 2014 after the Russian annexation of Crimea. So a reminder, this war has gone on since February 2022. It's remarkable to think that. And the British taxpayer has committed £21.8 billion to Ukraine. We're going to get the American perspective, the UK perspective, but also the Ukrainian perspective first. So let's speak now to the staff writer at The Spectator, Svetlana Morenets. Svetlana, thank you for joining us very much. So from a Ukrainian perspective, how do you feel as this peace deal is thrashed out? Is it too pro-Russia?
Of course, it looks like it has been written in the Kremlin. The same demands Russia gave to Ukraine in 2022, and what we could read in this 28 points plan, it was all practically the same. And Volodymyr Zelensky is actually in a very difficult position because from one side he can't betray Ukraine's interests and to agree to the deal, and from the other side he needs to keep Trump in a good mood towards Ukraine, because Ukraine needs American air defense system. They need the weapons, the intelligence sharing. So Zelensky here is trying not to say no to Trump directly and to show that Ukraine is willing to find some compromise, that Ukraine is willing and wants to get peace. And the other question is whether Russia is really serious about that.
What compromise would Ukraine be happy to make, though? Because at the moment, the deal is that the Donbass can remain Russian, Ukrainian still by law, but the Russians could effectively lease it back off Zelensky. So there'll be Russian speaking in that area, Russian schooling, etc. And that Zelensky would take a rent, effectively, off Putin. Is that not satisfactory to Ukraine?
Of course not. The Ukrainian society won't accept that, and even if Zelensky tried to sign the deal, the Ukrainian parliament wouldn't vote for it. Ukraine won't withdraw from the territory that Russia couldn't capture since 2014, leaving hundreds of thousands of people under Russian occupation. Ukraine is ready to start negotiations from freezing the fighting along the current front line. Zelensky agreed to a ceasefire back in March, and Putin didn't agree even for a one-day ceasefire since Trump returned to office. So Ukraine is ready to talk about any territorial concessions only after the ceasefire is enforced. And the issue here is Putin doesn't want to agree to a ceasefire. He wants to continue the war while he is dragging out the peace negotiations.
Let's bring in Carla Sands now, the Foreign Policy Chair from the American First Policy Institute. And stay with me, Svetlana. We have Carla to join us now. Carla, it's so complicated and so intractable, this conflict. And my impression, and I think where President Trump's frustration comes from, is the number of dead young men, be they Russian or Ukrainian, and he just wants this solved. What can he do to not appear to be too pro-Russian whilst also generating peace here, Carla?
Well, I don't think it's about appearances. I agree with what you just stated. He wants to end the killing. The killing will not end if the war doesn't end. Europe had 2 years before he was elected to make a difference, to negotiate a peace. They did not. In fact, they didn't even discuss it with Putin. The fact that President Trump began discussing right away, the fact that he's actively working to end the war, and that Europe is so weak that they don't really actually try. They just give some money and say, it's so terrible. It's terrible. And President Trump is right. He's going to end this war sooner or later. Hopefully it's sooner. The date that he's given Zelensky is next Thursday. It's the American Thanksgiving. I think it's the 27th of November. And he got the plan last Thursday, so he's got time to look at it. Not a lot of time, but he's had a lot of time to think about this and what he's willing to give up.
And there has to be some compromise, Carla. And it's very difficult to... Of course, we see this from the Ukrainian point of view, and hopefully I can bring Svetlana back into this if she's still there, that actually there has to be some sort of compromise, and that seems to be the sticking point here. I think Svetlana's gone. And I've never heard from anybody on the Ukrainian side what the compromise could possibly be. And I understand that because it must feel enraging. But to put this in some sort of historical context is important. Where can the compromise come, Carla? Do you have any idea?
Well, so this is not a new idea. Remember, back in 2014, John McCain and other U.S. senators actually met with the leadership in Kiev at that time and said, look, you go to war with Russia, we're going to back you. Some of the neocons were ginning up a conflict and looking for conflict with Russia specifically. They wanted to weaken Russia, break up Russia, whatever their goals were. President Trump has it right when he says Ukraine does not have the cards. They don't have the cards. They don't have enough men. They don't have enough military to win this, no matter what. And the United States is not going to give our blood or treasure into this war, which is Europe's war. So in Europe is now trying to block this peace plan that President Trump is putting forward. Yes, Ukraine does take some losses. You know, Russia doesn't get everything they want either. It does have security guarantees for Ukraine. It does give them, you know, certain sovereignty that they are looking for, but it also says they can never join NATO, which is a real point for Russia.
Yeah. Let's talk now also, stay with me, Carla. Let's bring in former British military spokesman and geopolitical defence commentator Mike Shearer. Mike, good to see you again. Where does this go? What possible peace deal would keep both sides happy or at least mildly contented?
Well, I don't even know that is possible, Bev. Look, what we have here is a deal maker versus a troublemaker. And the reality is, it's much easier to make trouble than it is to make a deal. What we're living through now is almost an exact replica of the 1938 deal that went on with Hitler and Chamberlain about the Sudetenland. It's a carbon copy. And what happened there? Oh yes, World War II as a result, because Hitler was not happy with just that slice of Czechoslovakia. He wanted a lot more, and we know what happened there. I'm afraid what we're witnessing now...
We're 3.5... The thing is, Mike, we're 3.5 years into this. Billions of pounds of taxpayers' money from the UK, pounds, dollars from the Americans, euros all across Europe. This needs to be brought to an end without escalation.
Now, of course you're right, Bev, of course you're right. The man that can make that happen, the man that has the cards, is Donald Trump. You know, if he was now to provide Ukraine with what they need to win instead of what they need to survive, this could be brought to an end very, very quickly. But what I'm staring at now is that Pax Americana is basically dead. This old notion that we could rely on the United States as a credible ally is withering on the vine. You know, Donald Trump is behaving like he wants to be Putin's employee of the year. And what he's presented is not you. In 2022,
but what you're talking about when you say this, he needs to give Ukraine what they want, you mean more bombs, more planes, more guns, which just means more death and a potential escalation into World War III, to use your analogy of the World War II.
No.
Exactly, Bev.
We can overwhelm. We can overwhelm. The West can overwhelm Putin. It can be done. What has been presented is almost the same as what was presented at the 2022 Istanbul peace plan. It's almost exactly the same. And let's not forget, here's the important thing. Let's not forget 1994, the Budapest Memorandum of Security, that the United Kingdom, shame on us, and the United States, shame on them, and of course Russia, who said to the Ukrainians, if you give up your tactical nuclear weapons, we will look after your security. The worst thing they ever did, because quite frankly, the Americans, the current American administration, let me make that clear, is unreliable. And it would appear that the United Kingdom, who has taken too much of a peace dividend from 1991. The only dividend that you get out of peace is peace itself. We stop spending. Our military is woefully inadequate, and I'm afraid the buffer state that is Ukraine is paying the price for that.
Carla, this is Carla, this is the fault of the Trump administration because they aren't coming down hard enough on Putin.
No, I don't think so. This invasion happened under Joe Biden's watch, if we can recall. And the last time that it was under President Obama, please don't interrupt me. The fact is that under weak American leadership, Putin took advantage. He took the territory that he wanted. Let's not forget Crimea. So what happened was under weak U.S. presidents, Putin has used Ukraine as his playground. He wants Ukraine. But under strong American leadership, so Europe and the UK should only hope that a strong American president follows President Trump, because then we don't have these invasions. And Vladimir Putin does control his appetite for places like Ukraine.
OK, thank you both so much. Carla Sands there, Foreign Policy Chair for the American First Policy Institute and former British military spokesman and geopolitical defence commentator Mike Shearer. Let me know your thoughts at home, gbnews.com/your say. My panel are going to be joining us as well in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. There's a brand new way that you can take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Have a quick look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Right, still to come tonight on The Late Show Live with a new puberty blocker trial now moving ahead after a UK ban. We're going to explore what is behind that shift. This is The Late Show Live only on GB News. Oh, and one of the world's most active volcanoes has erupted. Sorry, that's not funny. I don't think anybody at the moment is in potential peril here. But we're on volcano watch. This has just come in at the last minute. We're showing you live pictures of it as it's spewing out its lava. We will be taking you to those images if anything significant happens. That's right. This is The Late Show Live with me, Beth Turner.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. I'm Bev Turner. Now, this slightly startled look on my face is because I've just been discussing with my panel what a turkey pardoning is, and we will get into that because I'm joined in the studio by Democrat Party strategist Bob Weiner and the Daily Mail's US political reporter Victoria Churchill. We'll talk about the turkey pardoning. It's Thanksgiving this week, Thursday? Next week.
Well,
what day
yeah,
is
I guess
it?
technically this week,
yeah. But first of all, just briefly, I'd love a line from both of you on what we were just discussing then. Russia, Ukraine, what happens now, Bob?
Well, a big part of the story that's been missed, Bev, is the fact that, according to U.S. intelligence analysts, the draft, the 28 points that has no NATO, no Europe, give up territory Russia didn't even win, cut Ukraine troops, no European troops, and all of that, that was written by Russian military in conjunction with the long visit from Witkoff and Kushner. And so Rubio had to do damage control all day, and that's what he did. He brought rationality back into it. And with Trump, it's always the last one, because earlier it was Trump says Zelensky can agree to peace plan or fight. Now, as Rubio laid it out, there's going to be time. It's not necessarily going to be Thursday. There's going to be negotiations over pieces of it. The calendar is not the same as has been stated, and so there now will be rationality, because that was a giveaway to Russia, and it was because of, as I said, because of Witkoff and Kushner writing in conjunction with Russian military.
But surely, if you're coming to bring a peace deal to the table, you have to go to both sides. That's what you do.
Yeah, they did one side.
He's a negotiator. They went to Russia, but now it's about taking that to Ukraine and saying, right, what will you compromise on?
Sure. I mean, I think when we look at the visit between Putin and Trump in Alaska earlier this year, Putin, I think, was ready to make a deal, and I think because Zelensky basically hadn't agreed to enough, I think that's why they weren't able to make that deal. And so I think now they're starting with the Russian position, because I think last time they probably started with the Ukrainian position, to which Putin was like, well, none of this benefits me, right? Yeah. Because as you were kind of saying in the earlier segment, it really has to be the lesser of two evils. Yeah. Everyone's going to have to compromise, and up to this point, nobody has wanted to compromise. Absolutely. And so again, it's up to Trump, Witkoff, Rubio, every single person in the administration that's working on this to figure out what that deal is. But, just a note on World War III, I think, if Kamala Harris had been president, we would already be in World War III. All right. I think Trump, the fact that he's been willing to have both sides come to America, right? Because Putin, even though it was Alaska, that's still America. So, just the fact that Putin was able to come to America, that already was a win for Trump. That puts him in the stronger bargaining position. And so there's really, all that's left, in my view, is just to seal the deal.
Yeah.
Bev, you said that it needs to end without escalation. The problem there is Putin. He will not allow it to go forward. And I wrote a piece in the Palm Beach Post. Trump could use the Lend-Lease model for aid to Ukraine. Putin only understands strength. And so what Europe has been proposing, and they are writing a deal which Rubio actually today said he didn't even know that Europe was coming up with a counter deal. Well, of course they are. And it's going to be something like that Europe will provide the sources for Ukraine.
Thank you, Bob. We're watching the situation carefully, and we will let you know at home if we hear from Marco Rubio in the next hour and a half. Moving on, though, earlier this year, of course, in the UK, the Supreme Court ruled the definition of sex in the Equality Act 2010 should be interpreted as biological sex only. And it was just last year the Cass review found there was insufficient evidence for the safety and effectiveness of of puberty blockers. But today, children as young as 10 are going to be given puberty blockers on the NHS from early next year after a trial was granted ethical approval. Last year, after a major review, the gender treatment drugs were banned after concerns about the lack of evidence over their safety for under 18-year-olds, and experts have now launched a clinical trial looking at the impact of the drugs on their physical, social and emotional well-being. The study by King's College London will recruit around 250 children aged 10 to 15 who identify as transgender and who have parental consent. Let's talk now to Charlie Bentley Astor. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us this evening to talk about this. I can't quite understand how this has been given the green light when so much of our policy in the UK was moving away from this, and now we're going to have 250 children who identify as transgender experimented upon. Just first of all, also just remind our audience who don't know what your particular perspective on this is, what journey you've been on.
So for myself, I experienced gender dysphoria from quite a young age, sort of 8 years old, and that persisted right through till I was about 24. I'm 27 now, and as part of dealing with that, I had various therapy, and I also took puberty blockers when I was 20 to 24, and not had the greatest experience with them, let's say that.
And so just tell me what safeguards were in place, Charlie, when you started having gender dysphoria, you started having confusion about who you might be. How many adults in your life were just there to say, it's a phase, you may be gay, like you may be all sorts of issues, but let's just put the brakes on this? How many people were telling you that?
Well, me personally, nobody, but I went through this before it was kind of known as the transgender trend. So I was mainly encountering people discussing this online in sort of social media groups on Tumblr and that kind of thing. And you'd encounter lots of adults who had gone through the transition process, normally with cross-sex hormones and sometimes puberty blockers, and had sort of come out the other side, and what they would do is coach younger people on what to say to doctors to get the kind of treatment that they specifically wanted, which was normally hormonal suppression and cross-sex hormones in order to appear or present as the opposite sex. And that's the primary problem we have with any study that we do, is that there's ideological motivation on the part of the children who want this thing because they've been told that they are trans and that it's an inalienable aspect of their identity and their personality, and that they were born that way, and that the only way to get rid of the crippling disgust that they feel towards their own body, the discomfort they feel in society, the alienation that they feel in society, is to transition and be the opposite sex. And that's another problem that we're having, is that it used to be a metaphor that transgenderism was, I feel like I'm the opposite sex, not that I am the opposite sex. And that metaphor has become blurred to the point where people think it's actually literally possible to have the wrong brain in the wrong body.
And can I ask you, Charlie, what were the effects of the medication that you were put on, the puberty blockers? Have there been any long-term effects as well as short-term?
So in the short term for myself, what puberty blockers do is suppress the production of sex-based hormones within your body. So as a female, that meant I was put into a synthetic menopause in my 20s. And the upshot of that is that my bone density rapidly dropped. And so I've got osteopenia, which is pre-osteoporosis in my spine and in my upper thigh bones. And there's not a lot you can do rebuilding wise. I'm lucky that sort of before 30, you can begin to reaccumulate that density, but it's a very slow, hard going process. And I've not made a terrific amount of advance. Even now, my thigh bones are still dropping, and my spine has increased ever so slightly. But the other big question mark I've got is over my fertility. About 18 months ago, I had a blood test which basically showed I had no detectable estrogen in my body whatsoever, which at the time, as a 26-year-old woman, is not what you want to be hearing, particularly because I was taking estrogen at the time as well to try and boost my levels, and even that wasn't being absorbed by my body and used by my body. And so I've now in the position with my clinicians where the only hope they can offer me really is to say, well, give it time and we'll know if you're infertile or not when you try and get pregnant. And so obviously that's not hope at all, really, a kind of, oh, well, see what happens. And if you can't get pregnant because you are infertile now, that's kind of just your hard luck. And so the idea that these things are reversible, as the Cass review sort of highlighted, there's just no evidence either way. And that's why these studies are being commissioned, and I don't think they should be. I think there's been enough people that have been subjected to this through the NHS system as it was. There's approximately 2,000 plus people who have had puberty blockers in the past few years who all can be followed up upon. And the significant thing about this new study that's coming out, it is only studying the short to medium term impacts of puberty blocker use. And so we don't need those studies. The studies that have been done are all criticised because they don't have these long-term follow-ups. This one's pegged to be 2 to 4 years long. It's really not enough. Even ask me a couple of years ago with what I was still feeling and my attitudes towards, being a mother or anything like that. It's rapid change and continue to change until I, get to my 30s, mid-30s.
Okay, Charlie, I could talk to you a lot longer. I think your story is absolutely fascinating. I think you've got such a good morality tale of our age, and I'm so sorry that you've had to been through that, but I absolutely applaud your honesty and your bravery now, because the people who are conducting these studies need to listen, frankly, to you. So I really appreciate it. Charlie Bentley Astor there. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Our countries are working together in support of crucial diplomatic efforts, not least of which, Mr. President, is your own personal commitment to finding solutions to some of the world's most intractable conflicts in order to secure peace.
Well, it sounds like King Charles may be returning the favour and crossing the Atlantic just in time for America's 250th anniversary with a spectacular visit. No doubt Trump will be very competitive, because as we saw there from the state visit, that was amazing. We're going to bring you all the details next, and we're on volcano watch. One of the most active volcanoes in the world has erupted again in Hawaii. There it is. We're showing you live pictures of it as it spews out its lava. Bob Weiner, satisfying to watch that, isn't it?
Well, I've been there. Seeing the hot molten lava under my feet, underneath, with the British geological team analyzing how the lava spews into the ocean. It is a fantastic situation. I've seen this live go on.
There we go. First-hand eyewitness account in a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
as I say, now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This relationship, which, with good reason, we and our predecessors have long called special.
But this is truly one of the highest honours of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country.
One of the highest honours of my life, said American President Donald Trump back in September at that unprecedented second state visit. Well, it looks like another meeting might be on the cards, and this time with King Charles being invited over here to Washington. So let's now talk to Grant Harold, former butler to King Charles. Grant, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So what do we know about this visit? And of course, we're also fingers crossed that King Charles remains well enough to travel.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. No, as you said, I think that's what we're down to. Obviously, with any kind of state visit, there's a lot of planning that will certainly have begun if this is going to take place in the spring. But I think what they'll be monitoring is very much his health. And the other thing is to remember, I mean, he's no stranger to visiting the United States. I mean, I think his first trip was in 1970. And since then, privately, and publicly, he's been over 20 times, most recently in 2011. But this will be his first trip as king. So the point is he will want to get this right, as it's his first official visit. And I believe it's also to mark potentially the anniversary of the formation of the United States as well.
That's right, of course. And, you know, we know what President Trump appreciates. We know what he likes. I think he would revel in the opportunity to be host to King Charles, particularly after the warm welcome that he was given for that state visit earlier this year.
Yes, I agree. I think this is something, you know, from the, kind of understanding what President Trump is like. I think definitely he will want to kind of offer the same hospitality experienced at Windsor and kind of put out literally the red carpet for the King and Queen. And he'll probably love the idea of hosting them. And I'm sure he'll also want to show them where I very much doubt the ballroom will be even anywhere near completed by that point. But I'm sure he'll want to see his plans. And also just want to be a good host and spend some time with them, because he has talked about that good relationship between the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I hadn't thought about that. He will now be using this as a deadline to push through the ballroom to completion. He won't want the king here without the world's greatest ballroom. Thank you, Grant. Thank you very much for joining us, Grant Harold there. Let's talk now to my panel. Bob Weiner and Daily Wales political reporter Victoria Church are still here. Victoria, I think that would be an amazing visit.
Yeah, you know, if we know anything about Donald Trump is he knows how to be glamorous, he knows how to be showy, he knows how to put on a show. And I think you're right about that ballroom deadline. This, of course, has had everybody in D.C. up in arms.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's interesting that he has to get this approved by this Capitol Commission, but it contains a lot of members of his administration as well as Republicans on Capitol Hill. They don't seem to be getting in his way. And, of course, the thing that all the Democrats get caught up about is that, oh, it's costing many, many millions of dollars. These are all private dollars that are being spent on this, as I like to remind people. And, you know, also, if you look outside where I live, the construction's been taking forever on my road because that's government tax dollars, because these construction companies want to drag out as much money as they can out of the taxpayer. However, with private dollars, I think President Trump, as he's known to be a builder, a creator, somebody that can put a vision to life, I think he's going to have a lot of pressure from his investors to make sure that this project gets completed on time.
Yeah. Bob, this surely having the king at the ballroom will keep the Democrats quiet and stop whinging about it.
Well, I think we probably won't have another No King's Day right around that visit, where 7 million people said we don't want a king. But I got to tell you that people are not happy about the goldy gloss all over the White House, the grand ballroom. This is not doing Trump any good. The popularity of that construction is 75-25 against the new ballroom. And
well, that's what I mean. If the king's there, then maybe all you whingers will go, actually, all right, fair enough. You did need a good room for the king.
No, it just rubs in the fact that we love you guys. We love that you love your government.
But you don't love us enough to give us a nice ballroom.
But we don't love the royalty that Trump wants to be, and is showing more and more that he wants to be in the United States. It is not a positive thing for him.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. We're going to look at tomorrow's front pages, and we're on volcano watch. One of the world's most active volcanoes has erupted in Hawaii. We're going to show you the live pictures now with our volcano expert, Bob Weiner, who has walked on that very site, Bob.
Yep, that's true, and seen the fire under the earth and watched it.
I can't work out the perspective. What are we looking at? What a person in there, just so I know what I'm looking at there. How vast is this volcano?
Well, it's huge. It's to the top. It's like, I think, about 15,000 feet high, and it's a serious mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are watching that. Do we know if it's not going to pose any risk to civilians on Hawaii?
They do. They have to run for cover when the lava comes out. So that can be a serious thing. They're watching it very carefully now.
Oh, and so are we. Right, don't go anywhere. Quick break. See you in just a minute.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. Thank you for joining me. Let's delve into some of the main stories in the front of tomorrow's newspapers. The Daily Express is telling us that pensioners are going to lose £800 a year in Rachel Reeves' budget, which is happening on Wednesday. Lots of front page stories about this budget. This is a very leaky budget. The Times is saying Reeves is going to hit 100,000 homes with a surcharge. This is basically about an increase in council tax, depending on the value of the house. And the Telegraph, again, they're running with Reeves' £15 billion welfare giveaway. So let's talk to comedian and commentator Paul Cox in London. Paul, thank you for joining us this evening. So as I say, I'm not sure whether we're being buttered up for this budget. I find this period of time before the budget so interesting. They're either trying to make us dread the worst, so anything that is good comes as a happy relief. I mean, it's that basically, isn't it? It's that they're trying to scare us so far, so that whatever she says, we're gonna like it.
It's so leaky, it needs a tenor lady, this budget. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're at a point now where they have leaked or floated or, rolled out so many potential budgetary policies that I can't believe that Rachel Reeves knows what she's going to say on Wednesday. I think that anything we read here, we have to take with a pinch of salt. We have seen a new thing leaked every day for about 2 weeks. It does nothing. It does no one any good. Everybody suffers here. If you're an elderly person claiming a pension, you suffer. If you own a home, you suffer. If you work and pay income tax, you suffer. However, if you're on, according to the Daily Telegraph, that Reeves is going to give a £15 billion welfare giveaway. It's a kick in the teeth, really. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't have a welfare state, but we cannot increase the welfare budget now. Who's that going to, Bev?
Absolutely. I mean, she was interviewed, wasn't she, in the Sunday Times today? And I don't know whether you read it, but it sort of came across as that she said something about, I don't know what people expect, or I don't know how to keep people happy, or you can't keep everyone happy. But the thrust of this interview was, I have my eye on the longer term, so that when I'm not in office, people will say Rachel Reeves did the right thing. But it's very optimistic when people can't afford to heat their home as winter's coming round the corner.
It's very optimistic that she thinks that people might say that Rachel Reeves did the right thing, God bless her. Look, both Starmer, Reeves and anybody who was spoken to when it was the general election said that Labour would put country before party. This is all party before country. They are terrified of upsetting their Labour backbenchers. In order for them to do the right thing, they are going to have to make some very difficult decisions. And the fact that they don't know how to make the decisions is a huge worry for us. Well, I don't think anybody... I was talking to Linda Jubilee on the show just previously, a very experienced journalist, worked all across Sky, BBC, you name it, she's worked for them. She's never seen anything like this. Just leak after leak after leak. They're completely out of control of their own budget. Come Wednesday, everybody's going to be incredibly tense, and I can't see this going well for anybody at all, least of all Rachel Reeves.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know how... I mean... Like you say, I don't know how she even admitted in this interview that she sort of admits that taking away the winter fuel for the pensioners, she didn't handle that particularly well. But she just comes across as not really understanding people and very much kind of automaton. You know, I want to do a good job. I just want to do a good job. I just want to do a good job. She's not listening to anybody, Paul. I don't know how she's ever going to bring this back. And how long is Starmer going to give her before he decides that she may have to be the one who has to go?
I think Starmer is sort of very much putting Rachel Reeves in front of him at the moment and saying, take the flak for me, take the flak for me. Because it's the only advantage he's got at the moment is that he has to share the blame. But who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. All right, Paul, thank you. I will be talking to you in the next hour. Still to come in this next hour, Donald Trump is poised to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. We'll have all the details in just a moment.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest, but through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're
the failure is
deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In this hour, more stories from the front pages of the newspapers. We're also going to be talking about the situation in Nigeria, where there are 300 Christian children now kidnapped. We've been bringing you that situation repeatedly here on The Late Show Live. And also in the US, the Muslim Brotherhood are being designated as a terror group by President Trump. Tonight on The Late Show Live.
I think this is a very, very meaningful, I would say, probably best meeting and day we've had so far in this entire process.
So that's Marco Rubio trying to pour oil on troubled waters between Ukraine and Donald Trump. The American president says that Zelensky is ungrateful, but he has now spoken out on social media and basically begged the president for forgiveness. But tonight, Rubio is hashing out a peace deal in Geneva. We'll bring you the latest on those negotiations. We are live in Washington, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this.
Stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's creed, background, or politics.
That was Nicki Minaj talking a few days ago now about the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. Well, there are 300 children now kidnapped. We're going to be talking to one of the key people trying to keep them safe. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. We're also on Volcano Watch. One of the world's most active volcanoes has erupted again in Hawaii. We're showing you live pictures as it spews out its lava. This is the second hour. We've got the stories that everybody is talking about. More debates, zero ad breaks. Don't go anywhere. So tonight, President Donald Trump has announced that he will designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organisation. The group was founded in Egypt in 1928. It's the world's most influential Islamist movement and is accused by critics of promoting a hardline political Islam under the banner of religious reform. A report in the US claims the Brotherhood managed to slip into federal agencies, advise civil rights policy, and even infiltrated American schools and universities. Let's talk now to Brent Sadler, Senior Research Fellow at the Allison Centre for National Security at the Heritage Foundation. Brent, thank you for joining me. Great to see you. So, is it about time too for President Trump to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a dangerous terrorist organisation?
Well, good evening. Thanks for having me on your show. For many folks here in the United States, it's an action that's long overdue, and good to see that some strong and due diligence is being brought to bear against this organization. And I'd say in recent days, also adding in care. the Council for American and Islamic Relations also that's been tied up with support for groups like Hamas in the past. And so certainly a lot more scrutiny, and I think there's been enough on record to warrant strong actions, and I think what you're seeing from President Trump is just the first step in that.
Okay, let's bring in the panel, if you don't mind, if that's all right, Brent, because Bob Weiner is here and I think disagrees with you, and Daily Mail's political reporter Victoria Churchill is also with us, of course. So, Bob, do you agree with this, the Muslim Brotherhood being rendered a terrorist organisation?
I think it's a little over the top, Bev, to be honest. I think if Trump included the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, maybe it would be considered some fair business, but he only wants to go with the people that he thinks he can control in some way. This is a little bit racist.
Brent, is it racist?
No, not at all. In fact, it needs to be taken in the context that Muslim Brotherhood's stated objective is to impose, and they have not renounced violence in the past, a Sharia law. And if you look at the state of Texas, and again, we're a federal system here in the United States, that doesn't overrule the national government, but the state of Texas, if you look at the statement and the rationale for why they are naming the Muslim Brotherhood and the cases in the past and their support for terrorism, I think it's a strong case to be made that their hands are far from clean, and it does warrant action. I mean, adding in other groups, I think, muddies the waters. The discussion right now is on the Muslim Brotherhood and whether or not it should be designated as a terrorist organization.
Victoria, the Muslim Brotherhood isn't a terrorist organisation in the UK, although some people would argue that they too have infiltrated schools, universities, preaching a rather hardline version of Islam. So why does the US view them very differently to how the UK does?
Well, I think what's important to note here is that actually back in the Obama administration, after the leadership changeover in Egypt back in 2012, the Obama administration actually welcomed the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House for meetings with top administration officials at the time. And so this is a far departure from past treatment that the U.S. has given to this group. But this is also something that Secretary Marco Rubio has noted that he was considering in the last few months since he's been Secretary of State. And personally, I think it's long overdue. We have to call out people that are enemies of America quite strongly, and that's exactly what this does. And also, you know, I think if Bob wants to believe that it's racist, I think he should also take that to a lot of other Arab nations in countries that have active Muslim brotherhoods have condemned this group. So their other Islamic Arab neighbors have condemned them. They know that they are a very radical wing of people that follow their religion. And I think that the U.S. is right in following in those footsteps.
Do you agree that the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys should be also considered terrorist groups? Or is Trump right? I'll stand with you guys.
Well, I think that foreign terrorist infiltration is something that this administration has tried to address head on, and this is just the latest step in that.
Brent, does Victoria have a point there that if the UAE and various other Arab nations have called them a terrorist organisation, where America has gone, probably the UK should as well eventually and follow the lead of Trump to designate them as a danger?
Well, I don't think any nation should follow like a popularity or follow what the trends are and take actions. They should look into the facts and do what is in their own national best interest. In the case of the United States, there's ample evidence that the Muslim Brotherhood has incited and has connections to very radical groups that do espouse violence. And you see this in other countries that have suffered. And going back to that Obama administration, it wasn't too long after that White House meeting that there was a falling out of the Muslim Brotherhood, and certainly the president in Cairo, Morsi, and against widespread protest. So it's not really a racist aspect here. It is a group that has a worldview that is extreme right, that is very religious fanatically based in a pan-Islamic kind of ideology, and it's not one that really is endearing or allowed to work within a democratic society, certainly antithetical to Western society. So we have to be very careful about it, and it does warrant deeper scrutiny. And I think by declaring them a terrorist organization, and there's ample evidence to do that, that they can actually start to apply more resources to validate and to continue to try to limit their influence, their malign influence, quite frankly.
You just got to give credibility, though, to what the rhetoric shows. And for Trump, the guy who says he wants to execute the congresspeople who say that military shouldn't follow illegal orders and give them power to say no, which is what the charter says, for him to suddenly say because some Muslim brotherhoods have some rhetoric that he doesn't like, and I don't blame him for that, that suddenly they should be declared terrorists. I think there are a lot of other people that can be declared terrorists much more adroitly than the Muslim Brotherhood.
But this, presumably, Victoria, is precisely what Brent has just said about the fact that it will allow there to be greater powers. It's similar in Venezuela. So just correct me if I've got that wrong, but there's some of the drug barons in Venezuela, Trump has ascribed them as terrorists, and therefore it gives more powers to the authorities, to the law enforcement authorities, to clamp down more quickly. It's a way of sidestepping bureaucracy to some extent in order to close down nefarious influences.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something that the Trump administration encountered in the first term, is that there was a lot of issues that they tried to deal with, but this years-long bureaucracy in D.C. got in their way. And so this is one way, like you said, of sidestepping that. Yeah.
Bob, would you feel happy then, like you say, if there were other organisations that he prescribed as terrorists alongside the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yeah, and tamp down his own rhetoric too. I mean, that's the other side of it.
Make himself a terrorist.
Where he helps generate the violence that occurred on January 6th. It doesn't work from anybody, but yes, I would feel more comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up. Brent Satter, there, Senior Research Fellow at the Allison Centre for National Security at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Brent, for joining us. It's a difficult one. I think I can understand. We looked at all the situation in Dearborn as well this week, with the violence there, the Muslim violence, and the the extreme, also you might say, Christians, like pretty Christian fundamentalists in that area saying we don't want this. And you realise there is this kind of religious fervour that is bubbling up, and maybe, Victoria, by designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organisation, somehow it might help to stamp that out, or will it have the opposite effect?
I mean, I think that remains to be seen what effect it will have, but it's interesting that you note influences in the Midwest. There was actually instances of election fraud within Muslim communities founded actually in Hamtramck, Michigan, which is where, of course, Amir Ghalib, who is now nominated to be the ambassador to Kuwait, is from. He himself wasn't implicated, but members of his council in Hamtramck, which is the first Muslim majority city in the U.S., they also have a full board of their local elected officials are all Muslim. And so, you know, I think that there is definitely some things that maybe don't necessarily translate across borders into a liberal, robust, democratic society. And, you know, to me, I think that anybody that tries to subdue the virtues that this country was founded on, you know, coming up, of course, on the 250-year anniversary next year, anybody that tries to change what America fundamentally is shouldn't really be welcome here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you both. Right, still to come. I'm just looking at your say messages here. gbnews.com/your say. Of course, they should be banned. They are banned in many Arab countries, says MC. We are pathetic. That's about Muslim Brotherhood not being prescribed as a terrorist group in the UK. Grumpy Grandma, no relation, says, thank you, President Trump, for banning the Muslim Brotherhood, who Arab Muslim countries have kicked out, for trying to destabilise their countries and to implement Sharia law. Please ask the Republic of Ireland government to ban the Muslim Brotherhood, whose successive Southern Irish governments have given bed and board and expertise to at unwilling Irish citizens' expense. Right,
I love when the comments agree with me. It's always a great day when that happens.
The comments agree with you a lot more than they agree with you, Bob. Just saying. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live this evening.
But today, faith is under attack in way too many places. In Nigeria, Christians are being targeted, driven from their homes, and killed. Churches have been burned. Families have been torn apart, and entire communities live in fear.
A surge in attacks on Christians in Nigeria, with over 300 students kidnapped in the latest assault. We're going to speak to someone who's been on the ground in Nigeria and advising the American government on what to do next. And of course, one of the world's most active volcanoes has erupted again in Hawaii. We're showing you live pictures as it spews out the lava. This is The Late Show, live with me, Bev Turner. No ads, remember. So we have been keeping you up to date with the situation in Nigeria, where Christians are under attack, and we are joined in the studio again by one of the people who has been advising the US government on this situation, Sean Nelson, Senior Counsel for Global Religious Freedom at ADF International. Hi, Sean. Hello. I wish you were here to tell us this was all sorted and there is peace afoot and that the Christians have been saved from the Islamic terrorists. That is not the case. What's the latest situation? What's happened?
Well, on the St. Mary's Catholic Church, so this was in Niger. It's a Catholic school sort of towards the northwest of Nigeria. Earlier this week there were reports of this kidnapping, mass kidnapping. Initially it was 50, then it was 200, and now we've learned it's over 300 school children. Kidnappings of this magnitude have been happening for years, ever since the Chibok girls. If you go back through the records, you see year after year, hundreds will be kidnapped at this time. And one of the questions that people are asking themselves right now is why, since government has had notice that these mass kidnappings happen, especially because the terrorists seem to want ransom or to traffic young girls into sex slavery. You think of Leah Sharibu, who still has not been released after 7 years because she refused to convert from Christianity to Islam. They know this is happening, and yet the school children just feel like they have no security. The parents, they're wondering where their kids are. There was some news that I think 51 of them were able to escape and be rescued, and so we're praying for those other 250 and their school teachers. But I think of Boko Haram. What does Boko Haram mean? It means against Western education. Yeah. These girls, these young boys, these school teachers, what are they trying to do? They're trying to educate, they're trying to help their communities, and yet they're kidnapped, and it doesn't seem like the government has been responsive to this. I wonder if they will be responsive now that there's the president coming out and saying, yeah, there's a genocide of Christians, with Ambassador to the U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz. He said that earlier this week, that there was a genocide. I hope that wakes the government of Nigeria up.
I spoke to you last week when Nicki Minaj spoke out, obviously pop star, rapper, and what benefit does it bring to a situation like this when somebody like her with such a high profile will get involved?
Almost everybody I've talked to in the last few weeks, and certainly since Tuesday, when Ms. Minaj spoke very powerfully and very much from her heart about the persecution of Christians and many other groups as well in Nigeria, it seems that everybody I've talked to has said something about Nigeria. They know I work on it, and so they ask me about this, and they say, I've heard this in the news, I've seen this, it's absolutely everywhere. And I think that's so important when you have somebody who has such a massive platform and such a big heart and such intelligence to go out and say what's really happening, and to say it when many of probably her friends, many people in the media want to deny this completely, I think it's extremely powerful.
And that's the key, really, isn't it, for the involvement of somebody like that, because this story hasn't been on the front pages of the papers anywhere around the world, actually. Why is that? Is it that it's Christian people? Is it that it's black people? What are the prejudices at work here that means this doesn't get the profile that it deserves?
I do think, unfortunately, one of those has been that it's been Christians who've been targeted. You know, a lot of times these mass atrocities, it takes a long time for people to wake up. In fact, very often too late. You think the Rwandan genocide, too late. Yeah. It took years for the Uyghur genocide of Uyghur Muslims in China. But I think on this one, because they were Christians, a lot of people turned a blind eye to it, including President Biden for many years. And so I think that's unfortunate. I think sometimes people think, well, it's Africa. Atrocities just happen, but they don't. They don't just happen. People don't just happen to shoot other people with AKs. People don't just happen to kidnap hundreds of school children. There's a reason it's been happening for years, and it's the inattention, it's the impunity that's allowed these things to continue on. Whatever the reason is, I'm extremely grateful that now it is on front pages. It's on everybody's social media feed. People are talking about it, and I hope that pressure causes the government of Nigeria to act, to not just say, no, this is a false narrative, we're just going to push back, but to say, actually, yeah, our people, our own people, are calling for us to take real action, to get real security into these areas, to actually get these kidnapped girls back, and then arrest the people who kidnapped them.
And Sean, you look kind of visibly moved by this as you're talking about it. And you're a lawyer by trade, correct?
Yeah, right.
What is it like for you waking up every morning and knowing that you've got to go out and fight for these kids and these people, and going to bed every night praying that you'll get good news in the morning? What kind of toll does it take on you?
Well, I mean, these are, many of them are my friends, and you're absolutely right. I pray every single night for them, and they send me things, and I wake up and they send me terrible things, and then they send me very hopeful things. They're very hopeful that the world is paying attention. They want the world to pay attention. They've been screaming for years for the world to pay attention, and so they think it's a grace of God that that's happening, and I want to support them as much as I can. I want everybody to speak out about it as much as they can, because we can't lose focus over this. Just this past week, how many things have happened? A church attacked by militants on video, and 38 people abducted, 3 killed at least. 25 schoolgirls in Kebbi, the 300 in Niger State. And before that, every week, you could point to 3, 4, 5 things, and those are just the things that get out into the media. They're so grateful that people are using their voices to speak up for them, because they feel that no one has spoken up for them, and they're listening to them. And so I thank God for that. That's the hope that lets me keep going forward. It's the hope that these people are a witness to. I think that's so powerful as well.
And the way you talk about it is so powerful. Genuinely, they couldn't have a better ambassador for them, going around and talking, to people like me who aren't as aware as we should be. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Sean. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. We're going to be having a look at the biggest headlines from tomorrow's papers, only on GB News. Quick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest. But through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Michelle Obama last week.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. With me, Bev Turner, Victoria Churchill and Bob Weiner are here in the studio with me as well. And I have Paul Cox down the line in London. Let's have a look at the front pages. The Sun newspaper is leading with a story about Shirley Ballas. She's a judge on Strictly. Apparently she nearly died because she choked on a fishbone. What kind of world are we living in where that is a front page, Victoria Churchill?
You know, I'm not sure. I mean, newspapers have to sell these days, but that might be a little bit of a stretch as a front page story.
It really is a stretch, isn't it? Right. The Mirror are leading with Help Us, Chancellor. The cost of living is the #1 priority in a new poll. This is one of many stories on front pages of papers leading up to the budget on Wednesday. And The Independent, they are warning that the businesses are warning Rachel Reeves over the budget tax. The CBI telling the government that death by 1,000 taxes will damage the economy in a swipe at the Chancellor over a U-turn. And let's now go to Paul Cox. To talk about what, Paul Cox? What would you like to talk about from the front pages of the newspapers there? Please don't say Shirley Ballas choking on a fishbone.
I have no interest in that. I mean, what I should say, I guess, is I'm glad she's okay. But that is about as much thinking as I'm going to give to that story. Look, there are two stories now in the UK. There's two stories. There's one story across the world. It's Ukraine-Russia, not UK-Russia. God forbid, and not Shirley Ballas, but the budget. Now we've covered both extensively. I don't know if you want with your panel to talk a little bit more about Ukraine, but I think we should probably start on the UK budget. This is going to be huge. I don't know. Good evening, by the way, Bob and Victoria. It's lovely to see you again. The light of my Sunday.
Always good to see you, Paul.
Thank you, Victoria. So what I would say is that this is genuinely huge. This isn't hyperbolic from myself or GB News or Bev or whatever. The budget this week is kind of make or break for the country. We're in a position where this country is on its knees economically. It's on its knees economically, I think, this is my personal opinion, is because Labour do not know how to manage the economy. All they know how to do is look after the welfare state. And right now, looking after the welfare state is just not possible. The reason we can't look after the welfare state is our welfare state is open to the rest of the world. So anyone who comes in can have access to it. So we're essentially paying for the rest of the world. That's why it's so expensive. That's why the NHS is on its knees. That's why the economy is floundering. What we need is strong leadership on the economy that sees growth. The only way you can have growth is to cut taxes, cut the welfare, cut your cloth accordingly. Invest in business, encourage business leaders to stay. Don't have the politics of envy where anybody who's being successful is punished in some way. And don't punish the working people. Make them want to work. Nobody in this country now feels that if they work hard, they are going to see the benefits for themselves or their families. subsidies. We have a huge issue in the UK, and I know across the world, the US included, there are economic pressures, but the UK is in a particularly devastating state, Bev.
Yeah.
Can I ask Paul a question?
Bob.
But are you subsidizing the billionaires in your country with $3 trillion of tax cuts and stealing from the poor, stealing the programs from the poor, the health, the housing, the food, in order to give it to them? I don't think you're doing that. So the budget question is also one of fairness. And when you, by the way, have 800 pounds that you're losing in pensions, we have the same issue. It's actually $2,000, which is what, maybe, I don't know, 1,400 pounds, that we are giving to the rich instead of letting the poor have their subsidies for health care so they can not have 50,000 a year die. So there's a whole different set of issues that relate to fairness that you have to take into account when you're talking about budget.
Well,
Victoria?
Sorry, go on, Victoria, yeah.
Oh. Go on.
Oh, yeah, happy to chime in here. I think that actually the UK can take a little bit of a leaf out of the US's book in terms of actually having your parliament have hearings on what can actually be done to cut expenses. This is something that President Trump and his allies in Congress have been looking at extensively over the last few months. They have uncovered so much waste, fraud, and abuse. Just this week, I wrote up a story about how almost $500 million went through SNAP dollars to McDonald's and other fast food chains. This is something that was uncovered by Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. As much as Trump loves McDonald's, I don't think the U.S. taxpayer should be subsidizing unhealthy food, particularly with a program that should be supplemental and nutritional. And so, I'm sure that there are many more cases like that I've uncovered also, again, through working with Joni Ernst's office and seeing some of the great work that they do. We've been paying for government-funded mascots for national parks, for example. This is the kind of stuff that the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying for, and I'm sure that the UK taxpayer, if actually the budget was properly looked at and kind of uncovered through hearings in Parliament, I'm sure that there are many similar cuts that could be done in the UK.
Before we start policing the kind of food that we're going to tell the poor to eat because we don't consider it nutritious enough, and McDonald's is a staple in the United States, I think we ought to at least give them enough money to eat. That's the point in the budget.
Bob, I mean...
So, hang on a minute. Sorry, go on, Paul. I was just processing then what Bob was saying. So you think you should be giving poor people... Well, you've got your SNAP benefits. Giving poor people money to spend on McDonald's? Or would you rather do what is happening here, which is that certain benefits can no longer be spent on junk food, but only on healthy food? That's got to be the right way to go, Bob, surely.
Better, but not if it's going to stop them from being able to eat, and there's an emergency that their funds are being stopped. You're never going to have time to decide what is and isn't healthy food in time to restore the SNAP benefits. And what Trump did was inexcusable. He just stopped the SNAP benefits, and finally, in the deal that was struck in Congress, they had to restore them.
Okay. Should we move on to another story on the front pages of the papers? What do you want to talk about, Paul? Let me just bring back the front pages so I can see what was on the front of them. The Mirror was the same story, budget, of course, isn't it? And The Independent is also on the budget. Yep. Let's talk about this X story, shall we? So this is... I don't think it's on the front page of the papers at the moment, but this is about the fact that Elon Musk has added a new feature to X, formerly known as Twitter, allowing users to inspect where a given account is based. So many popular accounts posing as American patriots or constitutionalists have been revealed as being run from foreign countries since the update rolled out on Friday. Now, Paul, why does this matter? Why is it an important story?
I love this, and this is classic Elon Musk. This is transparent. This is just transparency, the type of transparency that we need as well. It's very important because if they are based in Saudi or they're based in a Muslim country and they're talking about being pro-Israel, and they're likely to be bot farms on the basis that they're not really pro-Israel, they're giving you a view, they're snaring you in, and they're creating all sorts of other nasty narratives. The same can be said for pro-UK, pro-US, what it might be. It gives us an opportunity as a reader to go, oh, is that true? and it makes us better informed. If all of a sudden all of these people are talking from a specific location about something we inherently know they're not normally interested in and are unlikely to support, it gives us a very clear understanding of the fact that whether they're genuine or disingenuous.
Victoria, I think the one that really struck me was about the fact that there were what appeared to be pro-Palestinian organisations tweeting about the situation in Gaza with hundreds of thousands of followers, and it turned out they were in Egypt or they were in Turkey. They were nowhere near Gaza and appeared to be giving an eyewitness account of events. So I think actually Elon Musk has done us a favour, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he absolutely has. And look, I think that, you know, you can talk about free speech, that you actually shouldn't have a guarantee of free speech on Twitter because it's a service. It's not, you know, controlled by the government, but Elon likes to promote X as a platform of free speech, and so this way he can keep true to those values but also provide the user with additional information. And, you know, in this case I think information is your friend, because anytime that you start spin of any kinds of narratives, and, you know, a lot of times these accounts are retweeting each other and they're kind of piling on these exact same narratives and they get millions of impressions, that still allows people to do that, but it also provides much more transparency for the user, especially users based in the US, to see where they're getting information from, and then the users can decide for themselves whether that's a valid source or an invalid source.
Yeah, on this one I think you're going to have unanimity. With that $1 trillion salary he just got given, or whatever it was, he certainly should be providing some service. This one does sound like it exposes the bad guys, and people should know about it.
Okay. Can we talk about this BBC story on the front page of The Guardian, Paul? This is BBC to overhaul the standards panel as this fallout continues. I don't think I've spoken to you, Bob, since the Trump documentary splicing drama. Yeah. And obviously the ramifications of this in the UK have been absolutely huge. The Director General of the BBC had to step down, Tim Davie. The head of news, Deborah Turner's had to step down. We've also had another senior manager has now stood down. And in the UK today, as it is, there will be a committee hearing, a public hearing at the House of Commons with some of the people from the BBC to explain what's happened here. And one of the consequences, Paul, my understanding of this is that one of the panellists, one of the board, Robbie Gibb, who is a more conservative-leaning person, is being sidelined. That seems like a strange solution for an organisation accused of being too left-wing.
Yes, Robbie Gibb is being scapegoated here. Quite obviously, he's been made the fool guy for this. Now, you won't hear that many people say that. You or I might say this, Bev. But the idea that the only anywhere near the right politically a member of that board is sidelined tells you all you need to know. It harks back to the We Are, you know, this sort of supremacist talk that Tim Davie had at his outgoing speech, saying, you know, we're the peak of society, essentially. We're the best people. It tells you everything you need to know. They're not trying to change. This isn't an overhaul. I don't know what the opposite to overhaul is, underhaul. It's just moving the parts around and ending up back where you started. Nothing changes here. I recommend that they dissolve the board entirely and they allow the licence payers to vote on who they believe should be on the board for the BBC. We pay for the BBC if you're still paying for your licence, and many people aren't anymore, but those are the people that should decide. It should not be 1,000 people that live within 2 metres of Highgate deciding who gets to do what at the BBC.
Bob, what's your position on the Trump versus the BBC war?
I think they apologized. I think from what I've heard, this is something that never was broadcast in America. It was all in Britain. So I think it's really more your problem to get it solved than it is our problem. And I'm glad that you're solving it.
OK. All right. Let's move on now. Female politicians are unfairly getting more abuse than men, according to Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister was speaking out after Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, said in a newspaper interview that she'd been a victim of mansplaining. So that was an interview that she gave to the Sunday Times today, and she was asked about the comments on the sidelines of the G20 World Summit leaders in South Africa. And Starmer said, "I strongly believe that women in public life get much more criticism and abuse than men. And I mean, that is in politics, but it's also across a number of other areas. I'd also say the media, frankly." Is he right, Victoria?
Look, I mean, this reminds me of just last week we were talking about Michelle Obama saying on a podcast that she thinks that America isn't ready for their first female president. You know, I think this is really that same line of rhetoric coming across from both sides of the pond. I think it really does women a disservice. You know, I feel like I am equal to Bob as a panelist on this show.
Superior in many ways.
Agreed.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Bob. There you go. We've just disproven Keir Starmer right there. But, you know, Ben, you and Bev, you and Ben host this show equally. You know, I think in this day and age, all of this rhetoric, the only thing that it does is it tells women that there are these imaginary systems working against them. And I think that people like you and I, Bev, just disprove that every single day.
You know, the crazy thing about Michelle Obama, she would win. And she is the one that is saying that a woman can't win. Everybody has been saying she should run, she should be the one, and she should have been more than Kamala Harris, she should have been more than Hillary Clinton, and she never decided to run, and yet she would have had the game, I think.
I do wonder, though, Paul. I hate to say it, but I think I do slightly agree with Keir Starmer on this, because I do think some of the criticism that, say, Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves have received, and there's a whole long list of female politicians, and Widdecombe you could put in that list. They get a different sort of media attention, which I think does verge on a double standard, ways particularly about their appearance, that men just do not receive the same sorts of criticism.
That's true. That is completely true. I will just say that I think this is a cynical use of this issue by Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, because she's doing a particularly poor job, irrespective of her gender, her sex. However, it's true. It's true. I think she is, and I think they're going to stand behind that. And what that does is undermine the issue, and the issue does exist. I know it exists. As someone in the media. If I'm just tweeting on my own, no one ever talks about my appearance. My appearance is not great. No one ever talks about it. If I'm tweeting and I'm sharing, let's say, your interview with Donald Trump, Bev, the amount of, you know, I shared that. You and I have been working together for a little while now, and the amount of comments I see you get because I'm tagged in the post is abhorrent. And I'm sure you just ignore it, and I hope you do just ignore it and it doesn't affect you. But I don't see anything like that. Victoria, I'm sure you see the same. Men do not see that. I can come on here dressed as I like, and it's very unlikely anyone's going to say anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the one remaining kind of area of double standards, Victoria, is that we are still judged spectacularly for what we look like in a way that men just simply are never subject to that same criticism of what they look like.
I mean, I will say that it gives me some benefit because I get to spend a lot more time in the makeup chair than Bob does while he's, you know, nervously waiting in the wings, waiting to get his hair and his powder done. So, you know, if I get more time in the makeup chair, that's better for me.
But I've always said that you like it more, but I need it more.
And also, I also do think that the, I think nicknames like Rachel from Accounts is inherently chauvinistic. And I would say that to Lee Anderson's face, because I think it was Lee Anderson that came up with that. And I think that is designed to belittle her as a woman in a way that you would never hear something like that levelled at a male politician.
I do need to say something controversial, though, which I think is true, that women have to be careful. A lot of it is based on merit, and sometimes it's based on looks. There was and this is from my personal experience when I worked in the Clinton White House, there was, and I won't name who it is, a Clinton press secretary who whined and finally left and said she was excluded from the meetings because she was a woman. No, it was because you weren't as good as the other press secretaries. So you have to be careful of that and really make sure that it's based on merit. All decisions should be based on merit.
Can I just say that we need to get
careful. Go on, Paul.
We need to get T-shirts made. Bob Weiner, women need to be careful. That'll be a big bestseller at Christmas, Bev. That's what we need to do.
Right, moving on. The Daily Mail has reported that the amount of vegetables that Britons have eaten has slumped to a 50-year low. We're turning to diets apparently full of ready meals, crisps and chocolate. This is so depressing. The average person now consumes just 2.2 pounds of fresh and processed vegetables, excluding potatoes, every week. The figure is down roughly 15% on 1974. I would have thought it'd be more than that. Individual intake of 2.6 pounds. It's data published by DEFRA, of course. Bob, this is depressing, isn't it? That our diet is so bad in the UK.
You want me to comment on the quality of British food?
Yeah.
I love it. I go there, I eat there, and I feel healthy when I leave. I don't know what to tell you.
Do you feel that you would think that we would eat better maybe than Americans? Clearly we're going in the same direction as you.
I don't know what to comment on that. I think that you have fantastic scientists. We have the world's worst scientists right now. We have a non-scientist who's telling people that, you know, don't get the vaccines and vaccines cause autism and other things that are just terrible. We have a quack as our HHS secretary.
Well, you have Bobby Kennedy, who is literally going after the massive food corporations to take out colourings, take out flavourings, take out palm oils, take out false sugars. He's going to do more for the health of this country than anybody in history, and you write him off as a quack.
After he kills everybody with measles.
Oh,
Paul, Bob.
Let's talk about vegetables. But you picked the wrong person on that topic, Bob. Go on, Paul. I mean, how depressing is this? Why are we eating such bad food?
Well, I think it's convenience, I think it's cost, and I think it's lack of education. I'm someone whose weight's gone up and down. I'm nowhere near my heaviest. In the last 12 months or so, I've lost quite a little bit of weight, put a little bit back on recently, and it's all to do with the quality of food and the quantity of food I eat. Obviously, it's exercise as well. I do manage to get some exercise. I do enjoy exercise, but food is incredibly important. Someone like me who's working at night or comedy clubs or whatever it is, it's very convenient for me to fall into bad tropes, but it's not that difficult to get out, and it does come part of an education. I wasn't brought up with nutritious education, really. I was fed ready meals like a lot of 80s kids, and I had to sort of teach myself that as I got older. That sounds like I'm just slighting my parents. It's just the way it was. But I think education is incredibly important, and we do need to listen to that more. It's not just about the NHS. It's about living fulfilling lives. If you are carrying a lot of weight and you're unable to sort of do any sort of cardiovascular at all, you are not living a fulfilling life.
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria, are you surprised to hear that Britons are eating less healthy food? We're kind of going the way of America.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I feel like anytime I spend time in the UK, there's always lots of vegetables, leeks, peas, carrots. You know, that's actually where I discovered my love for leeks, and now I go and find them at Trader Joe's because I think they're just so cool. They're not really as prevalent in the US as they are in the UK. But yeah, you know, I think it definitely is unfortunate, but I also do think that this current administration is really putting a priority on the health of Americans. You know, Paul, you talked about education, particularly when it comes to diet. I mean, when I was growing up in the early 2000s, we had the food pyramid that had the most important food group as carbs. Yeah. So, you know, our education has not been better. And, you know, I think this administration, there's a little bit of light on the horizon to the fact that they could actually have better education where people are enabled to make better food choices for themselves in a way that historically hasn't been coming, at least from the government here in the U.S.
Yeah. To put a serious note on this, I hosted the head of the National Institute on Aging at the National Press Club, and he said 3 things have built us 20 extra years in life since it used to be in the 50s, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and now it's in the 70s and 80s for men and women. And the answer is nutrition, exercise, and medical science. Those 3 elements together. And so you have to have a package of all of it. And you're so right. You got to get out there and do the park run that originated in London and do that 5K every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and then train for it. Then that'll help you a lot.
Yeah.
Bob, do you do that? Because I would pay to watch it.
Go on, Paul.
Does Bob do the park run?
Do you do running every weekend, Bob?
I've done it. I've done 60. I've done 61 of them.
You've done
Good for
61
you,
park
Bob.
runs.
Good for you, Bob.
T-shirt at 50.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, well
done. Well done. Right, moving
They're
on.
all over the world. The guy created a worldwide movement for it.
I know. They are. They're very successful. Now, let's move on to another story now, much more serious. Israel has killed a senior member of the militant group Hezbollah in an airstrike in Lebanon's capital, Beirut. We're looking at the footage here. The strike hit Hezbollah's chief of staff, who is described as a veteran of the group. He's held a series of senior positions. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described Haytham Ali Tabatabai as a master of murders, and Lebanon's health ministry has said at least 5 other people were killed and 28 others wounded. Now, what does this tell us about the situation in the Middle East, Bob? Just when you think that peace is occurring there, to take out the leader of Hezbollah, it's a significant move to destabilise or to undermining the Islamic forces in that area. They'll be taking this as a huge victory, Israel, but it also means that clearly the skirmishes are continuing.
Well, you have to be careful. It's the same thing in the drug wars. We always think that because you kill the head of the cartel that you're stopping the drug trade. No, the bubble just goes to the next person and the next person and the next person. Same thing with these terror groups. We're not going to stop it by getting them, but should we have not gone after bin Laden? Of course you do. And of course you make that kill, and of course you're proud of it, and you scare people for a little while. But it's not as though the terrorist organization is over. It's not.
The Hezbollah was badly it was successfully undermined with those pager explosions. Victoria, that was the first stage really towards the end of the power of these terrorists in the Middle East, wasn't it? We forget that. And of course this is a huge win for Netanyahu.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see if Trump and Netanyahu have spoken. I don't have any intel on that. I'm not sure if you do, Bev, but you know, I think it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. administration reacts to this, if they do at all. Of course, they were the ones that put this Gaza peace deal together, had a lot of the other Muslim Arab nations sign off on it. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see if President Trump gets any calls from any of those Middle East partners to see, hey, you know, we're doing everything that we can, but Netanyahu's still continuing on this train that he's been on. And, you know, if Trump does speak out, of course, this is something that has divided the American right, particularly in the last few weeks of, you know, is the U.S. doing too much for Israel? And so it'll be interesting to see what side of the coin the administration will fall on, or if they will reprimand Israel and say, you know, we've put so much of our personnel, our effort, our time into this peace deal, and you're, you know, coming here and really undermining it.
Okay, right, a festive story now, and I can't believe I'm talking about Christmas, given it's only November still. I've broken my rule of not talking about Christmas until at least December, but the Beckhams have already put up their Christmas tree, despite it being November. Sir David, as he is now, I still can't accept that, Paul Cox. That's Sir David Beckham and Lady Victoria Beckham have poked fun at each other on social media about it. Is it too early, Paul?
Well, yes, it probably is too early, Bev. But as you were talking then, this time of year is particularly dark and bleak. So during the pandemic, which was forced upon us, I remember thinking when the Christmas lights went up early in that sort of 2020 and 2021, it seemed to bring just a tiny bit of joy to what was a very bleak time. And I think this time of year, even though it's incredibly dark, and I wouldn't do it personally, I think if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. We've just seen a block of flats blown up by Israel, and then we've shifted very quickly onto should people have Christmas lights up in November? And I'm like, do what you like, really, because at the end of the day, it's a pretty bleak world out there. And if there's going to be any light, you know, let it shine.
Yeah, beautiful. Bob, what do you think, Bob?
I'm all for it. The more Christmas, the merrier. And we're going to put our tree up on Tuesday. The city of Alexandria already has all of its lights up and down the main street, and then they leave them on until March. So I'm all for it. I think it's a wonderful time. People actually are nicer to each other. That not only do they give presents to each other, regardless of religion, by the way, but they are nicer and they're wishing each other happy holidays, and there's less enmity in the world around Christmas time. Let's have more of it.
So this is my first sort of Christmas winter time in America, Victoria. So do people normally put their tree up before Thanksgiving or after? That probably is a line in the sand, isn't it, that you put your tree up after Thanksgiving?
Some people do like the early bit. Some people think that Christmas starts as soon as Halloween is over, so that's the beginning of November.
Those people are mad.
Well, you know, it's really interesting to see because a lot of these people have the artificial Christmas trees, so they'll drag them down from their basement or from a off-site storage unit and put those up. You know, personally myself, I prefer the natural Christmas trees. I get the fresh cut, or at least the Home Depot cut. So, you know, that's what I use. So I tend to get mine at least a week or so into December. So I'll be traveling for Thanksgiving, so you guys won't see me next week, but I'll be back after that, and then by that time I'll hopefully have my Christmas tree
Oh dear,
back.
they're going to miss both of us, Victoria.
Well, I don't think we're going to be able to get any guests for next Thursday, Paul. It might be 2 hours of just me and you, because every American in this city is not... Who doesn't want that? I want that. Every American in this city is unavailable on Thursday. I don't know how we're going to get a panel, frankly. We might have to do some sort of Thanksgiving special. Oh, and just before we go, Victoria, what is the turkey pardon? Because I'm going to go to that at the White House this week. What is it?
Yes, well, Bev, you get to participate in this great American tradition that's done by presidents, has been done for years. So it's 2 turkeys that get presented to President Trump that basically they get notified that they will not be served at the Thanksgiving dinner table, unlike millions of other turkeys that will be eaten on Thanksgiving next Thursday.
And I can't wait to see what joke Trump makes about pardons when he does it.
Well, I know where you're going with that, Bob. Don't say the Epstein word. Don't say the Epstein. Do you understand what was just said about the turkeys, Paul? I'm still a little confused about what I'm going to see at the White House this week.
No, I've seen it before. It's a tradition in the States. I mean, the fact you only pardoned 2 and there's about another 1 billion turkeys that get slaughtered in the same 24 hours, I think is, you know, hilarious. But, you know, whatever you want.
Absolutely. Right, Paul, thank you so much for joining us, and Victoria and Bob, and thank you at home for joining us tonight on The Late Show Live. I'll be back tomorrow night, midnight UK, 7 o'clock Eastern. See you then.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to a GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, there are showers in the forecast today, sunnier spells developing in the west and more so tomorrow, otherwise still feeling chilly in the winds. So the strongest winds really confined to the southwest of England with gales, but they'll generally start easing. Otherwise, some brighter skies developing, especially across Northern Ireland, Scotland, later into Wales and the southwest of England. But most of the showers really confined to eastern areas, so into eastern Scotland, northeast England. Again, some of these wintry over the hills. Could be some glimmers of sunshine across the southeast, but for most of us, it's a chillier day, especially when exposed to the northerly wind, but feeling a bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. So as we go through this evening then, temperatures will quickly fall away, especially under the clear skies across western Scotland. Still a focus for showers along the coasts. Across Northern Ireland, a few showers coming down in that northerly wind, and likewise across northern England, perhaps even some of them falling a little bit wintry. Otherwise for England and Wales, it's going to be a mixture of some clear skies, but also some showers, especially focused across Pembrokeshire and then running down into Devon and Cornwall. So as we go overnight into the start of Tuesday morning, actually a lot of those showers across the west do start fading away. It will be turning colder, especially across northern areas where we'll see a touch of frost to start Tuesday morning. Otherwise, still a focus for the showers across eastern areas. So a colder start to Tuesday morning with some icy stretches possible and a frost in places. Otherwise, through Tuesday, most of us should see a largely dry day with more in the way of sunshine. There'll still be a focus for those showers running down along eastern coast, so into northeastern England, and a few showers across the southwest, but through the day, they'll start fading away. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant with lighter winds and more in the way of sunshine on Tuesday.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists.